37, 38, 39. And this is the Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee for the 8th day of June, 2010. Good morning to everybody. My colleagues will not be joining me, so it'll be a committee of one. Mr. Clerk, what do we have before us?
Well, we start with item number 1 here. This is scheduled for council today. CAO report relative to a proposed amendment to lease agreement number C-116660 with Emek Hebrew Academy for 2 parcels located in the Sepulveda Flood Control Basin.
Good morning, Veronica Salumbidas with the Office of the CAO. The item before you is a proposed amendment to lease agreement between the Department of Recreation and Parks and Emek Hebrew Academy with regards to 2 parcels of land located in the Sepulveda Flood Control Basin. The proposed amendment changes the commencement date from September 1st, 2008 to January 8, 2010, when the lease agreement was actually executed, effectively extending the 30-year term by approximately 1 year and 4 months. All other terms and conditions approved by Council in June 2009 will remain unchanged. There is no fiscal impact. Therefore, the city financial policies are not applicable, and the CAO recommends approval.
Now, let me ask a question, because the Finance Committee has a fiscal responsibility now where they want every agency that's in a city building to pay. That's true?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
There's a fiscal policy by our Finance Committee. We just discussed it in council that every community organization that may be cultural organization, art center, in a public building, they would have to pay fair market rent on that.
In this case, I believe the, I'm not sure if any department representative is here to,
Are any representatives here?
I'm here for Emmett. I can maybe answer.
Right, just want to be, if we're consistent on this here. Want to sit down and introduce yourself?
Joe Bernstein from Rosenheim and Associates, 21550 Oxnard Street in Woodland Hills for Emek Hebrew Academy. And just a brief history, in 1991, Emek signed a lease with Reckon Parks for land adjacent to the building that Emek owns. And basically,
Did they pay on the lease?
Say again, please?
Did they pay on the lease?
No, what they have done is they've improved and maintained the property, and that was brought up when the lease was recently approved, and it's a substantial sum yearly to maintain. It's 3.2 acres to maintain it, and also initially Emek put in very expensive improvements to create what in essence is a community park now. So,
Right, where is it in the relationship, because there's no map here?
it is right where Magnolia terminates at the east side of the 405.
Right, north of the fire station?
Exactly.
Right, good. You know Devin Rosenheim?
Yes, I do.
Would she approve this?
Definitely.
All right, so we'll recommend approval. Thank you. Ms. Rosenheim was the first female in Los Angeles school history to play on a boys' basketball team many, many, many years ago, which caused the advancement of girls' sports. So anytime I hear that name, I always act accordingly, because she's a champion.
Thank you. Well, I understand her daughter's a good athlete and gets it from Devin, not from Brad.
Right, very well. Thank you very much. Recommend approval, send it forth to council. Okay. Mr. Clerk, item number 2.
Item number 2, Department of Cultural Affairs report relative to a request for approval to accept a $90,000 grant from the Getty Foundation and Research Institute.
Is anyone here from Cultural Affairs? Okay, we're going to recommend approval on this here. When does it go to council? You know when it goes to council?
I'm sorry?
When does this go to council?
There is no specific date. We could have it in council next Wednesday.
Yeah,
It's item 2.
item 2. So very good. It's a $90,000 grant. Recommend approval. Sal's not here. Okay. All right, item number 3.
Item number 3, City Attorney Report relative to the Tobacco Enforcement Program and request for additional appropriation for 200 compliance checks, formerly Council File number 04-1405. This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning. Ida Rubio with Office of the CAO, and Nora Manzanillo is here from the City Attorney's
City
Office.
Attorney, yes. Hi.
I'm here to answer any fiscal concerns you might have. There is a CAO report that was released for
How'd
this
you like that
particular
report?
item. Pardon me?
How'd you like that report?
We liked it.
Yeah, it was a complete $92,000 in 20 decoys, 200 minor decoys, compliance checks. Transferred $92,000 from the unappropriated balance to this fund.
Yes.
City Attorney approves this.
Sure. We approve it.
Good. I've seen more people smoke lately for some reason, and all the work we're doing.
Well, they say there's an increase because of bad economies and,
Really? Tell me more.
well, I mean, we've just seen some studies, initial studies and data showing that there isn't a little bit of an increase in smoking now because of, financial situation.
And stress?
Stress.
Uh-huh. Right,
Not among youth, though.
right. Anything else to add?
No, I think that we're pleased that this is the first time we have seen an overall decrease of 18.5%, the lowest that we've seen in the city since 2005. So we're pleased and proud of that.
Great, good. Well, thank you for your efforts. I know a lot of improvement has been made. I know yesterday, I think, Starbucks said you can't smoke on that property anymore, so
Yeah, new.
that will be interesting to see how everybody responds. Okay, we'll recommend approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, both of you. Thank you. Item number 3 was just complete.
That was item.
Item number 4,
Item number 4, Department of Aging Report relative to acceptance of Appropriation Act Senior Community Service Employment Program funds for Standard Agreement Number AA-0910-25 and acceptance of regular funds for Standard Agreement Number TV-1011-25 for budget year 2010-2011.
great.
Good morning. I'm Charles Babby. I'm the Director of the Senior Community Service Employment Program, also known as CSEP for the Department of Aging.
Right.
And
Excuse me
I-
just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, the acoustics are interesting here in the room. When you have conversation in the back, it bounces off, and for some reason, it's coming in louder than today. So if you want to have a conversation, you can step outside. We'll have the sergeant call each number when it goes to the next item. Okay, thank you. Excuse me, staff, the acoustics are bouncing it real big, so you can talk outside if you need to. Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, the item is a routine annual acceptance of the federal grant funds for the CSEP program. There are 2 funding awards for the program year 2010-11. The first one is Appropriations Act CSEP funding totaling $1,008,938, and second is the regular CSEP funding, which totals $2,166,060. You also have a second budget, I believe, that was inadvertently omitted from the council file when we submitted it for routing.
Right. Do we notify the local congressional offices of this?
No, we don't.
Well, let's do that because it's a federal grant, just to let them know we appreciate it.
Sure.
So if you have Ms. Trejo send a letter to thank each and every one of them, and the delegation, they could work to the legislative analyst's office. This is routine, so we're going to recommend approval.
Thank you.
Okay, you have any more comment? Okay, how's James?
James is doing real good. He's busy.
You tell him hello.
Okay.
Thank you. And Laura, too. Okay. Now, we got 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so let's take number 5 first.
Item number 5, continued from September 22nd, 2009. Motion, Weezar Labange, relative to requesting the general manager of El Pueblo report on eviction procedures, history of rent disputes, including the Casa de Souza case, and marketing strategies to increase attendance at the El Pueblo Historical Monument.
Find out. Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Councilman. Robert Andrade, General Manager.
Right.
You may recall that at your last hearing at El Pueblo, a number of these items were discussed. In particular, on the marketing side, you had LA Inc. show up to talk a little bit about the activities that they're involved. For us, we work closely with LA Inc. and Film LA. We've hosted dozens of events, close to 100 events annually. Our museum attendance continues to be steady, and our docent tours are up. There is no marketing budget, and in light of the city's financial situation, it's not likely that that's going to materialize anytime soon. The second issue revolving the Casa de Souza, you may recall about a year and a half ago, that was an important issue for the department and for the city. Subsequently, there was an eviction. The city attorney is here if you want to get into details relative to that. But subsequent to that, we did an RFP for that, what is the Hamill building. That was commission approved, and the process continued through about 2 weeks ago. There's a review team that are making their recommendations, and I'm currently reviewing that RFP, or the results of the RFP. We'll be taking that report to the commission as well as to the council for final.
Is everybody paying rent today?
Everybody's paying some rent.
Right, but everybody's paying some rent. And with that being said, the only eviction we've had is this most recent one is?
We've had two in the last 4 years. The Casa de Souza as well as the glass blower.
Great.
Both as a result of non-payment of rent.
Great. Well, look, I want to call some cards from the public, so if you could do, this is item number 5, and we have Carol Jacques, Commissioner, Steve Jimenez, and Edward Flores, if you would like to. That's the only cards I have for 5.
Please, let them go first. I'd like to wait.
Your Honor, I'm going to defer to Mr. Flores first, and then I'll finish up.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Edward Flores. I am a fourth-generation Olvera Street merchant. In recent times, or in the past, we have asked management to give us a written copy of the policy regarding evictions on Olvera Street, and we have not to this day been given one. In a meeting last year in the Budget and Finance Committee, I had made reference there to being a policy that seems to be made up as we go along, and I was told that there was in fact a policy at that time. And fortunately, we've only had 2 evictions on the street, but it seems that the way that they were handled was one different from the other. And in a commission meeting back on March 25th, the manager stated that there was a typical process that they followed, and that seems to me that it being referred to as typical is not necessarily set in stone. And at any time when you have a tenant and a landlord, it's pretty much clarified in advance or upon request that there be some method or clarity in the way that things are being referred to or resolved. And we have made some recommendations. We put them in writing, and I believe we have furnished you with that at this time, where there will be a 30-day, 60, 90-day, and finally a 120-day period in which the issues are looked at, addressed, and a paper trail is created. The councilman is at every step of the way notified of what is occurring, and we just believe that there should be a policy set in stone so that we all have the protections that, as merchants there on Olvera Street, and having the longevity that we have there, we should have some protections, as well as the city, in regards to this matter. Also, has been some issues regarding the hardship criteria. It hasn't been also clarified as well. We need in writing as well what is the procedure for looking at those matters as well, so that it simply seems to be just a deferment of payment. And in this economic time, I think we need some clarity resolving that, or to look at that issue as well.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Labange, Stephen Jimenez. I'm representing Mike Mariscal, who is the president of the Olvera Street Merchants Association Foundation. We did prepare a memo, a letter to you outlining some of the suggestions for this item. We did include what we think is a reasonable approach, considering there is nothing on record from the department regarding evictions and hardships that has been tendered to the Alvera Street merchants. I know that the president of OSMA, Vivian Bonzo, had requested to management a written policy statement. It had not been received. The other concern regarding the written policy statement is you can't make it from scratch. I think you have to go historically to see beyond the two that have recently been evicted, but what was given to the merchants from the Recreation and Parks Commission prior to it being taken over. I think in general, as I've been observing this process, we have not seen, or the merchants have not seen, any kind of written policy and procedure with regard to these items. They refer or defer to the city attorney, which is appropriate. However, there's not a written document that says, okay, this is the way it is. So what we're doing here in this particular piece, of which we'll be addressing in this letter, is we're making an offer to the committee. We're suggesting that this could be an approach that management can take, absent what they're currently doing now. So everybody knows the rules up front.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank your staff for letting me know that this meeting was going on. Otherwise, I would not have known. And thank you very much. I know that that was an issue that I had the last time, and I appreciate that. And if you continue to do that, I would be eternally grateful. I just want to say that at one of the commission meetings, one of the things that concerns me about Pueblo is that I didn't think I'd get my number. I didn't start at 0 over here with my number counting. I know I haven't done 1 minute 40.
He's okay.
Okay. Anyway, I am very interested in consistency of application of the rules and regulations, which in my experience as commissioner has never happened or very seldom happened. So I asked for what the process was in terms of eviction, and I think whatever we did last time, we should do again. But we don't, in fact, have a policy or even a process that we've outlined. However, I have asked for that. I also I'm very interested in a policy for revitalizing. Since we're raising the rents, I think one of the things that you're very interested in, that we're very interested in, is having specialty puestos wherever possible. So I think that some kind of time should be given for those puesto owners that would like to, that have an idea for some specialty shop, and maybe they could be given a break to try new business within a certain amount of time so that everyone doesn't look the same. I think that we need to help them with kind of business plans and encourage individuality for whoever is interested in doing that, and give them a break. Because I think the merchants have been there a long time, and we need to do whatever we can do to make Alvera Street better. I am in favor of the rents going up. I am not in favor of them tripling, quadrupling them all at one time. I think that's blatantly unfair, and that something has got to be worked out so that these merchants that have been there for a long time can improve their businesses. And I think that there are things that can be done besides filming to improve marketing. I think it's not right to quadruple rents when in fact we're doing nothing with marketing over there.
Thank you very much. This is item number 5 right here. Mr. Andrade, can I just ask you a question if you come back to the center table? Have you seen this document? You could, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. So do we have a written policy?
We do, sir. In fact, any eviction that occurs at El Pueblo would be forwarded to the commission for their final...
There's a written policy.
That is correct.
So what was stated wasn't correct?
I would like to see that then before
Sure.
procedures start.
I got it.
In the policy.
All right, that's okay, I got it. We'll take it from the microphone if you want to say something, but, okay, so let's make sure that it's posted too. You know how if you work at a place that it has all the guidelines, is there any one place that all merchants walk through the same door or could?
Well, there are places where we post information, meetings, commission meetings, committee meetings.
It should be one thing that says, it's just like the same thing when the labor laws are posted in an area, make it posted so everybody knows, and review with the city attorney to make sure it's appropriate.
In fact, the city attorney does participate in that, and we would not move forward with any evictions until the city attorney was brought into that process.
Great, good. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to hold item number 5. Next item is item number 6. We have, Commissioner, again, you would like to speak on 6?
Item number 6, Board of Commissioners of El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument Report relative to proposed criteria for lease terms for Olvera Street merchant leases and related matters.
Item number 6, Ms. Jacques, Mr. Jimenez, Vivian Bonzo. You want to come to the center table. Commissioner, would you like to speak again? You put 5, 6, and 7 on there.
Yeah, I did. I'm going to wait to see what's said right now, because it's not necessary for me to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Bonzo?
Good morning, Councilman. Were you going to receive a report from Andrade on the lease terms or the lease, proposed length of the lease? I think that's what the ordinance requires.
No, we're on item number 6 now,
Correct. The
Okay.
lease terms?
right? So if you want to
All right,
state
make
your
some comment.
comment,
Right.
yeah, that's fine.
What's been asked, what's been offered to the merchants is a 10 plus 10-year lease term, and unfortunately, most of the merchants have not been willing to sign that, including myself. The other 17 merchants on Olvera Street who were fortunate to sign the lease when it was still being offered by the city, unfortunately, those of us that did not sign at that time would be severely disadvantaged in receiving 30 or 40 years less than our counterparts. Not only that, but Olvera Street will remain as long as the lease is in effect. And so that's really the critical point of how long a lease should be on Olvera Street. We know that the city's made improvements largely to the infrastructure, but unfortunately, none of those improvements will actually bring in another dollar. And so it's going to be up to the merchants with the lease, with bank financing, to be able to improve what we have. And this type of a lease, we feel is, first of all, it doesn't recognize the equity and the improvements that our families have made in creating the commerce that's there on Olvera Street. And again, it really disfavors our group as opposed to the other 17 merchants. So, Councilman Labange, I don't know if you're going to take a position on this or if you would like to carry it over to the next committee meeting where there's more attendance. But we're very concerned about the lease term.
What did you say, the 10 years is too much? It should be less?
Oh, no, just the opposite,
Right.
Councilman.
You own business any other places in the world?
No, I don't.
You don't own property? You don't?
A house, but,
A house, just a house, yeah.
right, but, we...
I just think that the city is trying to be consistent in trying to apply what has been historic to last century, believe it or not, a decade. It's so fast that it's come from 1999, that there's been no organized operation of a business. And 10 years goes by fast.
Right.
But also, it is the People Street, and it's an incumbent upon the city to try to enhance it. It stepped up when the state and the county failed, and it was the Parks Department under Mr. Reardon's administration that created El Pueblo Monument Authority. We're trying to focus on it. So I think it's important to look at 10 years as an opportunity to move on it, because I think you have to go beyond that. I may disagree with you, but that's the beauty of America. You could disagree and still work together. So,
Remember, Councilman, just let me point out that in 1998, the council adopted a 30-year lease with a 25-year option, and that took effect in 1999.
But no one signed those.
Yes, there are 17 merchants that signed. In fact, our organization signed and sent the letters.
What the city council wants is a fair playing field for everybody.
Okay, perfect.
And equity across.
Yeah.
And I think also that there's some reality, because some people are paying $300 rent, and that's what they pay a day at a shopping center to have a little cart a fourth the size of what some of the buildings are. So there's a reality that's going to come in real soon that everybody's just kind of waiting and waiting. But the time is coming that we have to have business that does support the monument. You're seeing a transition in the leadership where they are trying to upgrade, maybe not to your satisfaction, but they are working as hard as they can, and so this is part of the process. We have been, I think, procrastinating in some ways, and I think we all have to come to agreement very soon. I do have from, and Mr. Jimenez, I know you're going to speak on this in a minute, what public comment made in the last item said there's no written document. There is a written document. I don't know if everybody has been circulated. Everybody, Robert, come up to the table. Does everybody who has a shop on Olvera Street have the rules? A commissioner doesn't have the rules. This is just a sample. I'm just holding it up.
Excuse me, Councilman.
Yes.
Those are
Member
not.
Labange, please stop yelling from the audience. If you want to speak, put in a card, come up to the podium, and speak to the speaker. Otherwise, our record's going to be muddled. Please don't yell from the audience.
Thank you. Very good. Robert?
You're inquiring about the June 8th memoranda from the Alvera Street merchants? I'm not quite sure.
No. You in your office have a standard form that states what the rules of operation are.
Absolutely. In fact, those rules are part of each agreement.
So it just to go back, Steve, I'm pointing at Steve, who I've known for many years. That takes away the argument you made on the last issue that there's nothing published.
Well, I'm going to defer to Ms. Bonzo because she made the written request to
But you
Mr.
just said
Andrade.
it, though. You just said
He
it.
was speaking on my behalf, Councilman.
Okay.
I made a written request for two policies. The hardship, because of the rental increases, we wanted to understand completely what that was all made up and have some input, hopefully. But that, we never received anything. And in the same letter, and under the public freedom of information, whatever
Right.
it is, I asked Robert, send me the eviction policy, send me the hardship policy. I need to educate our membership as to how these things will operate, particularly given the crucial state of the rents and everything. And I never received so much as a, no, you won't get a copy back.
Do you have a copy of what she's asking for?
We have a copy of eviction procedures and policies, absolutely. We do not have a policy on hardship. We have a form that merchants could apply to for those that need to.
I just think everything, Robert, has to be way out in the open.
No,
Take one, and I say Questo, I say it wrong, forgive me. But the little merchants, buildings that they operate in, each one of those should be handed everything, take a lap around the monument and make sure everybody has it, and just say, they just want you to have it, okay? Make sure everybody has it. And make sure it's in a variety of languages. If anyone has any challenges in language, make sure they know it. Because this has been too long of a struggle. Think how much work we all could do together if we all come to agreement on something. There's got to be some agreement soon, because there's a push by the city to make sure that every dollar that we spend is accounted for, and that if it's generated, it stays in the area that it's generated. We're looking for El Pueblo to be self-sufficient. So,
will do.
Okay, Ms. Bonzo, anything else to add?
No, that's enough.
Ms. Jimenez?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments regarding the response that Mr. Andrade did prepare to the committee regarding the term of the lease. He was using some analysis of other like departments and structured his argument. One thing he did fail to admit was that there were 17 leases that were given long-term that were approved by the city council, and that is the 17. The question here is that he kind of crafted it in such a way that would legitimize the 10 plus 10. But by not sharing the same action or sharing that previous action that the council had, he's basically dismissing what a prior city council did, understanding the fact that they did provide that
Every day, a city council, whether it's our city council or another, will have an action. And as long as it's approved by a city attorney, whether it's our city attorney or another city attorney in their city, it may be different than the previous council. I do know that there was, but if it's approved, if the 17 who did sign, then they signed. You chose not to sign.
No, we did sign, Councilman.
Okay.
We have evidence that we signed.
Did
But
they
unfortunately,
sign, Robert?
The lease was withdrawn by the former city attorney. The lease was withdrawn.
For Mr.
It was-
Delgadillo?
Correct. He acted on his own behalf as the city attorney, and he said that the lease was no longer available to us. We all submitted our signature with...
But I think some of this, I'm probing into some city attorney area that I'm going to let the city attorney handle later.
Yeah.
You made your public comment. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll continue. Commissioner?
I just would like to apologize for speaking out, and I would like to say that I have never seen a policy on, and I have been there through and I seldom miss a meeting, and I was there through the last eviction, and I have asked for consistency of application, and I have never seen the policy, so I'm glad to know we have one, and hopefully at the next commission meeting, it will be shared and perhaps vetted.
Thank you very much. That may be a good idea. That is item number 6. So we are going to continue item number 6, okay? And I thank you for the comments. Now we have public comment cards from item number 7.
Item number 7, motion, Weezer Alarcon, relative to the deletion of 1 assistant general manager, restoration of El Pueblo special events funding, and the addition of 1 El Pueblo curator 1 position, or mayor's proposed budget for 2010-2011. This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Eric Eisenberg from the Port of Los Angeles High School. Paul, is that Paul Pignoni? Yeah, hey Paul, how are you? Vivian Bonzo, Alice Golf. Excuse me, Alice, you want to speak? I didn't choose you, Steve. Your card didn't come up yet. You're next. Okay. Why don't you start, Paul?
Good morning, Councilman. Thank you for taking the opportunity, or giving us the opportunity to speak. I'm here as president of the board of the Historic Italian Hall and the Italian American Museum of Los Angeles, and we are all aware of the historic nature of El Pueblo, and I think it would be a great mistake to discount that by eliminating curators and special events. You know, El Pueblo, in a sense, is a shopping center, and shopping centers with a historic significance. There should be a symbiotic relationship, and there is a symbiotic relationship between not only the merchants, but the museums and historic sites on the street. And to shortchange curatorial staff or special events, I think, is a mistake, because that brings in more people to the site, which can only help the merchants and only help the site as a whole. This is the birthplace of our city, and I think it's important that we maintain the historic significance. And frankly, if you go to some of the historic buildings there, they're starting to look a little run down, a little uncared for. So I feel it's very important that we maintain that, and if there's anywhere in the city that we should be focusing funds and efforts, I certainly think it's El Pueblo. And the Italian Museum and the Historic Hall are in support of maintaining those positions and funding.
Thank you, Paul. Eric?
Good morning, Mr. Councilman. I'm here to speak for the educational programs of El Pueblo for 2 reasons. Number 1, I participated in them as a child, going to field trips, but more importantly, my school, the Port of Los Angeles High School, which I am the incoming president of the Board of Trustees, has recently participated in tours and the educational programs. In these tough times, we hate to let anyone go, but if eliminating a top-heavy management position will free room for an educational position that actually serves the public and open up promotions and events and educational programming so that not only the children that are at my school can continue to go there and receive benefits from these, as I did as a child, but future children next year and the year afterwards will be able to, while we're getting through this budgetary crunch, I see that there's no other option but to support this motion at this time to solve this particular problem. And I hate the term, but it seems to be a no-brainer, and I'm strongly urging your support of Councilman Weezer's motion.
And I support what both of those gentlemen said, and I'd add in, not only do we need to retain our worker bees, those that serve the public, those that are interfacing and scheduling tours and offering historical information and developing that, but I would agree that we haven't seen enough come out of our management in terms of revenue-generating ideas. We've provided our own to the city in our memo here, ways that should have, could have been done and should be done to generate more money at El Pueblo. We have no museum store. the automated parking lots. There's ways to create revenue, but I don't think that our management has had that focus. And unfortunately, Councilman, pardon me.
It's all right, Ms.
Yeah,
Bonzo.
because, everybody feels familiar with you, so it's hard to, I really also, because we didn't even meet Robert Andrade for the first 2 years that he was the manager. And I have heard the same about our assistant general manager. And I think that's a mistake. If you're going to manage something, you need to be in the precinct. You need to be scouting around. And as you said, you hand that paper out to each and every merchant. I would be willing to bet you that if we lined up the merchants, that most of our managers would not know who they were by name or by shop. And I think that's a travesty. And I think it's a travesty when the city wants to create more money to pay for this, that they're going to support an actually very large management compared to many years that El Pueblo has operated, many years that you and I have both been involved, without additional divisions, like we have the PR division, which doesn't have any money for PR. I mean, what kind of a scam is that? Pardon me for using that, but it's ridiculous. And you have a property management division, and then you have, a lot of people in each division, and so we don't feel that the mission of El Pueblo is being served in this budget. And that's our comment.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, Alice Goff.
Hi, Alice.
I'm here today. Also in agreement with all that's been said and speaking in support of the motion, for the simple reason that the positions that are proposed, that have been eliminated in this current budget and those proposed to be, are in fact the frontline service provider provisions. So I just want to briefly tell you about them. The Park Services Attendant 2 is a 19-year employee who manages the visitor center and does all of those things necessary to bring the tours and do the educational programs for the children at El Pueblo. The senior clerk typist, also eliminated in this budget, a tenured employee as well, with all of the history and background of El Pueblo, serves as event coordinator, supports, coordinations with the merchants at Olvera Street, and the filming that goes on there. All critical positions to assist with generating revenue and doing the educational programs. The curator, again, the director of the museums and galleries, the education, the history. Her programs are used throughout Southern California schools and recognized for the value. The executive administrative assistant, again, providing support to the management. But in 2004, the controller audited the department for the myriad of problems that was going on and pointed out the problem with adequate staffing and staffing at the proper levels that allows for, again, the work and the mission of Olvera Street to be done. And so this is just a step backwards now. Likewise, I don't advocate for anyone to lose their jobs in this climate. However, if that position could remain vacant, it could then use those funds along with the funds from the vacant management analyst position, because there was a senior management analyst position that the management analyst has now moved into, creating a vacancy at another management level. Use those funds in order to retain the staff that provides the frontline day-to-day services, and that's really our request to you this morning.
Thank you very much. The next speaker, Steve Jimenez, Edward Flores, Mike Mariscal.
Councilman, Steve Jimenez, I'm speaking as the board member-elect from the HCNC, recently elected. What we did here in this document that was provided to you is we felt that the mayor's office did not do their due diligence in protecting direct services. So we actually got out our pen and decided to identify upper-level management positions that could go in order to save the direct services. It's a pretty basic concept. I've looked at budgets. I'm familiar with the city process and the county process. So I went and I looked at this stuff and I said, okay, fine. Let's flatten the management. Let's put the services still out there. Let's not make the public suffer, because it is the public that generates the revenue that in turn keeps the park going, helps the merchants, puts revenue back in. The only way, and it provides the publicity we need for the museums, for the cultural events, and it's a hard decision. I don't believe the mayor's office listened to the merchants when they put their budget together, so now we have to come before your committee, the Budget and Finance Committee, and the full council to express our concerns. And I believe that is the result of the motion that's before you. We actually took a more detailed approach, and we outlined and numbered how much positions we believe can be cut on the administrative side and how many services can be restored to keep the park going. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mariscal, you were late
Morning,
for
Councilman.
class, so you have to come and speak now.
Okay.
You were at
I'm here
Felipe's.
I'm here mainly
You were at
to-
Felipe's, and you were in the back booth.
we run into each other at Felipe's all the time.
We do.
Also at Palermo's. Anyway, I'm mainly here to talk about the funding for the special events. The city of Los Angeles is blessed by the events that the merchants do. Where would this city be without the blessing of the animals, the Las Posadas, the Day of the Dead, and all of the other cultural events that we do? The funding is at risk for helping to fund the events. I, as one of the main people that put on all the events, feel that it would be a disservice to the city to not have these events any longer. Without this funding, they would all disappear. Another aspect that the merchants have done in the last few years is add workshops for the children. Just during Day of the Dead alone, in a 3-week period, we put more than 4,000 school children through workshops in an average of a 3-week period. We've added workshops to many of our events, and again, that's as part of the culture heritage that the merchants give to the city and show what our culture is about. So I feel really strongly that the events funding should stay in place. Also, again, with this helps the budget that we propose to you of cuts could keep museum hours open. Our museums need to stay open as long as possible. We need to give as many tours as possible. We have thousands and thousands of school children that come on a yearly basis, and we should not take that away from the children of the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Flores.
Good morning, Mr. Labange, council member. My name is Edward Flores. I know you have a soft spot for Olvera Street in your heart. I have seen you there on many occasions. I saw you there at the Blessing of the Animals. I think it's a disservice for funding to be cut for those events. I think it's a disservice to the community, the generations of visitors that come to Olvera Street on a regular basis, and to the merchants as well. These are our cultural events. It's similar to Thanksgiving for people that celebrate Thanksgiving. These events are part of our culture. Some of them are part of our religion. There's, to use a phrase that's probably more in line with today, this place is an interactive cultural center. There's very few places where people can visit and actually participate. They're not actually just watching a show when you're seeing La Posada. You actually can participate, join the procession, sing along with the people that are merchants there on the street. You can also, in the Blessing of the Animals, bring your animal and participate in that event. There's very few places where you can actually do this. The events teach early California history, Hispanic culture, and management has suggested one method of resolving this issue, and I would beg you to not accept this, and that would be to RFP out the events. I think that's a disservice to the merchants who have nurtured these events, have perpetuated them over the 80 years that Olvera Street has existed. As I look around this room, I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but there's actually several members in here that are actually ancestors to the founding members of Olvera Street. So these events are very dear to us, and we think that they ought to stay in that line with the merchants. And I think that if it's necessary, one other thing, the general manager previous to this administration did not have a staffed assistant here. All previous general managers are able to do all the duties that were necessary to run El Pueblo, and I believe Mr. Andrade could do so too without that position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know you were, but you could come up, and also, if anyone wants to speak, because there's no other cards before me, you came in late. Do you want to fill out a card real quick, give it to the sergeant? Commissioner, please.
I know you love El Pueblo as I do, but it's time for some kind of a change. The items that are being proposed to cut are really going to hurt everything. Museum guides, the fiestas. I think that what's happened is you've imposed a city hall family paradigm on something that's entirely different. You need different kinds of hours. You need employees working Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You need people there on weekends. There's nobody there on weekends. At 5 o'clock, boom, you get a recording. You have to somehow find a way to extend these. Currently, it's my understanding that there's a senior management aide that's vacant that needs to be looked at. We need to flatten management, and we need to keep our museum aides. We need to keep our fiestas. We need to keep, I think there's ways to handle this, but it's not the typical City Hall 440 workday for employees. We have to find a way of cutting with a scalpel carefully. I'm not advocating that anyone lose their job, but it is very top-heavy when the two top items are costing more than $250,000 when you include benefits. I'm here to advocate for the education, the curator, education, history, and art, because that's what it's about. You folks here at City Hall, you don't do that. At El Pueblo, we do that, so we need a different kind of flatter budget that keeps those museums open for those children that come, so that, and for all of the city of Los Angeles. So I want to support Councilmember Weezar's motion for starters.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else like to speak? Okay. Thanks, Sergeant. Please pronounce your name.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Rondeau.
Janelle, thank you. I wanted to make this
That's
tight. Good
okay.
morning.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. My family was one of the last families that actually lived on Olvera Street in the Sepulveda house. My uncle, Mario Valadez, was general manager of Olvera Street, and he worked with Christine Sterling. My uncle taught us about having dignity and pride about our cultural events. He had a staff of about 5 people. There was no 20 or 16 managers on the street. He had 5 people who ran the street, who worked with the city and worked with the community to keep Olvera Street integrity alive. The last event, the Cinco de Mayo, was a horrible experience for me personally. It was more like a hip-hop type of event. There was nothing cultural. We have a history staff that had no information about what the event was about. I personally, for 17 years, curated Day of the Dead there and worked with thousands of children on teaching them how to deal with death and about our culture. I hope that we can keep our culture events, because we do not plaster a bunch of commercial booths out there. We're more into the integrity of the event, and we would prefer a smaller event than having something look like a carnival event. The last event, there was a free area that had artwork displayed, and people were saying, F the police. It talked about bloodshed, and to me, when people come to Olvera Street, it's not something I would like our visitors to come and see.
That was
So
a
I hope
music
you
event?
can save the
That was a
event.
music event?
This was the last Cinco de Mayo event. And the other event for 16th of
So they
September.
set it off a microphone on the,
No, it was artwork displayed, and families were coming over.
it was art that was
It
displayed.
was artwork. And on 16th September, they had booth with breast augmentation. And the merchants were taken the merchants were originally given the Cinco de Mayo. We created it, and El Pueblo took it away from us. So if they do take these other events from us, all they're going to do is put all these booths out there so they can make money. But if they have a whole history department, I don't understand why they're not putting history and culture there.
Thank you very much. Your name, sir?
Robert Banuelos. I think
Yeah, I apologize. Your 7 looked like a 1, and I was going to call you back up. Thanks, Robert.
Okay. My name is Robert Banuelos.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. I'm one of the museum guides there at Olvera Street or El Pueblo. On any given day, especially if you go over like right now, it's the end of the school year, so you have tons of school children going there. Sometimes, when I say there's literally 1,000 students, it means there's really, if you go right now, you'll find 1,000 students. And as a museum guide, sometimes that can be overwhelming, but that's our job. And I'm just here to hope that you do endorse Council Huizar's motion, only because this is a historical monument. It's it's the birthplace of Los Angeles, and it's really important that we preserve the history. Not too long ago, Hector Tobar from the LA Times did an article on El Pueblo, and one of the things he wrote is that we must sort of invest in El Pueblo. One of the lines in his article was, if you walk through El Pueblo, you'll find some time-worn displays and nervous city employees expected to be laid off any day soon, which was sort of sad. Here's the city's cultural center, it's its birthplace, and this is the best that we can offer, some time-worn displays. In an ideal situation, El Pueblo or any historical monument, would have, an archivist, a collections manager, an exhibit coordinator, and so many various positions to really, promote the city's history. But here at El Pueblo, we're in a tough situation, so we have to deal with what we can. And taking a step back by, cutting one of our curators would be, very, it'd be a step back more than anything else. Here we are. This fall we'll have La Plaza de Culturas and Artes. I think the Cisqueros mural is set to do a ground opening soon. And here we are reducing our historical staff by cutting a curator. I think it's really important that we move forward. El Pueblo has the means to be self-sufficient, and we just need the political will to carry it through and maintain the staff we need.
Thank you very much, Robert. That completes the public comment on that. Mr. General Manager, you want to speak to any of this? Okay, I'll speak to it. Here's what I believe we have to do. We have to look at this as a greater resource, number one. Number two, we have to connect the 5 or 6 points that are within 5 minutes of walk. That means from the Civic Center to Olvera Street, from Union Station from Olvera Street, from the Alameda Corridor and Homeboy and Felipe's to Olvera Street, from Chinatown to Olvera Street. I don't think there's enough magnetism to get people locally there. That's just the real neighbors, and we got to figure that out, how we do that. I think it's real important. Robert, why don't you sit up here so you could use the pad to write that down? I have Farmers Market in my district. It's been there 75 years. It was formed after Olvera Street was, in the 1930s, of the farmers of West Los Angeles. The farmers of West Los Angeles originally parked their trucks tail to tail and sold food to the people of a burgeoning city. If you go to Farmers Market today, you'll see a variety of shops. And this is for the merchants only of Olvera Street right now. Just an instant poll. How many of you have been to Farmers Market in the last 5 years? Raise your hand. Just you have. Okay, they have shops that sell steaks, shops that sell produce, shops that sell a variety of goods. Now, that being said, people coming from Germany and Japan and Canada and Mexico, they're not going to Farmers Market and buying those goods to take on planes back home. That is part of the menu of people from the surrounding greater community, not just 3rd and Fairfax, but from West Los Angeles to Central City, from the San Fernando Valley to South Bay and South Los Angeles, who come to the market for a variety of reasons. We also have to have a plan, Robert, that attracts the immediate vicinity. That's the 5-minute walk from City Hall, Union Station, Chinatown, the Alameda district, as well as Civic Center, which I mentioned. And then we got to broaden it, because let's say if you're in Highland Park or Silver Lake and say, I want to go to dinner, I want to do something, it should be a choice that you go to create that place. One of the reasons why people go places is how easy it is to park, how convenient it is to park. Some of these things have to be looked at to get the greater local community to come in and love. And then you have right now the largest number of buses that come there, not just the school buses that Robert mentioned, but the tour buses. And they sometimes get off, and they sometimes walk a few feet, and they may have an experience or they may not. We want to make them have a positive experience. That's working with LA Inc. and the Visitors Bureau to do this here. I also think it's real important as we look at Alvera Street in the Civic Center connection. Nick Patsoris, you may recall, do you know who Nick Patsoris is?
I do, sir.
Yeah, former commissioner. He had an idea to cover up the freeway. I don't think we're going to have money to cover up the freeway, but I think we could try to get Caltrans to build a high, maybe as high as the wall, they do that at some overpasses, fence, so for safety reasons, and then create and give the merchants of Alvera Street a chance to maybe bid on a little space out there, so you make a connection from the Civic Center. You have a left bank. You know where the left bank is in Paris?
I do. I was there 4 years ago.
Okay, and it just said the left bank is a place where people do commerce. There's a way we have to create. I would like to see El Pueblo, and I'm looking at the deputy for Mr. Weezer, have a connection to the Civic Center of the Fletcher Bowron Square, which is right there. We have to look at it. Extra parking could be made in there. I absolutely do support the assistant general manager of the department. I think it's important that they have a management team, but I want that management team working weekends as well as weekdays and flex your schedules. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It is a commitment and an honor to be running the El Pueblo, and I know you got to show that dedication for us to be successful. There's a variety of things that we could do within ourselves. We are in a very critical time, and even in today's paper where they talk about how Europe is going to draw back their economies, it will affect us. So we have to be very creative. When we talk about being flat, that means we have to do multiple tasks as individuals to be successful. Has anyone been to Water and Power lately to pay a bill up on Hope Street? Well, when you go in there, I didn't have to pay a bill. I had to visit somebody who worked there. So I went in there to work on a problem in Silver Lake. There's more security. What does Water and Power have? They have a tremendous display. What did I think when everybody was saying we're lost here right now? I think I'm going to talk to Water and Power and see if they could take their display and find a place and pay rent and support curators to tell the LA story of water, which is so important because the existing Za Madre, the existing water line is still there, but that needs to be loved and pushed. So there's many things that have to be done, and at the same time, we have to come up to some rent agreement. I feel I want to reach out to Mr. Weezer, take our jackets off, maybe our ties off, get in a room, get everybody in the room, and argue it out to a point with the guidance of city attorneys so we can move forward. Rents that are $300 aren't going to be able to last anymore. And there are some rents that are still $300 over on Alvera Street right now a month. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
So I think we have to come to some agreement what it is. And if there's a need for a scholarship program to help people, I'm in favor of scholarship programs to get to a point. And if you don't make the scholarship after 3 to 5 years, we need new energy to come in. I love families, but also families, if you got to think of the long term. If we're going to make this money what everybody wants to do, we need that type of respect that goes all the way around. But I think, I'm just saying right now, I don't support all of Mr. Weezer's motion. I do support the assistant general manager. I think that's important. I want to make sure they're managed properly. I know the CAO's representative is here. Maybe the CAO have anything they want to add? Because I also want to look at whether it's Pier 39 or San Diego or any other location where there's a place that people come to. I want to see that we can mirror that. And I do this in some reality. This is to the merchants. There's a reality that the city is now saying we have to be on an even line on things. So there is some reality coming forth on there. And also, is there a committee that says what kind of merchandise that they sell?
There is no one specific committee, although the ECHO committee, education, community, that would be the area or the appropriate committee. Every concession agreement that we have for lease has a merchandising plan. One of the things that we are offering as we sit down and negotiate new leases is to recreate that.
But is there a merchandising plan for the old fire museum?
There would not, no, there is not.
Here's
Not-
what I'm
not
just
for any
saying.
of our
Now,
museums.
you know how everybody buys LA Fire T-shirts or something? Maybe you talk to the Fire Historical Society and make a relationship. They have a little something in front of theirs that's tasteful. I'm not talking about anything. And then you raise some money to help pay for a curator.
Actually,
You got to
our
look at
assistant
those
general
things.
manager has been working on that for a while.
Right. Okay. Hi. Thank you, Mr. Andrade. Ms. Cuba.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ana Cubas, Chief of Staff to Councilmember Jose Huizar. We'd love to have an opportunity to work with the CAO and the CLA to identify any potential funding to keep the traditional events and look at what the staffing issues are at El Pueblo, to look at any potential funding for the curator position. I know that I've spoken with the CAO, Mr. Miguel Santana, about what types of ideas or sources of funds we can find. So if the committee would give us an opportunity to look into that, it would be much appreciated.
Sure. I got to continue this. I'm going to want to have the next meeting. I may want to have it over there, and I may want to take my tie off and my jacket off, and I want to walk shop to shop. And if you guys at the committee, the city attorney, we can have a rolling meeting, Mr. Clerk. I know it's your first meeting, Mr. Clerk, but we roll in this committee. I hope that you got that message there. But we're going to continue this. Okay. I think it's the challenge of everything right now is our time. And I already said we're right here halfway through the new year. It goes. There's a lot of dedicated people who want success. Some people see it one way, some people see it another way. But I think we have to come to some realities and move forward and quit the fighting and try to achieve the goals. And if you can't, accept it. I know, because sometimes, and Vivian, I saw the Pat Morrison article, and it was very nicely done. Pat is a very caring writer. We have to come together and say, this is what we want to achieve. The city entrusted the creation of the authority to focus on it. Previously, when we talked about staff cuts, I thought if you were still in recreation and parks, you wouldn't get the attention that you get. You wouldn't get the care that you probably get, but there has to be some public-private partnership. There's not the mechanism that the county has, and Steve mentioned the county, that you have at the Hollywood Bowl, which is run by the Philharmonic. The County Art Museum is run by the Museum Associates. Even our Los Angeles Zoo, is the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association, is stepping up. How many docents do you have who volunteer for free?
Approximately 80, sir.
80.
Correct.
So, and
Fully trained.
that's a good number of people, so we can do that. And so there's a lot of work we should do, but we really want to create it and see what we can do. I did also think, too, and I'm going to talk to the CAO's office, I think if there's vacancies over there, we should put the city's Cultural Affairs Department staff, which has been reduced, in there. I would like to see it. I always felt when they restored this building that the council should have met in the Pico House, because then you would have got everything done, because they would have seen what you need, because they would have been over there. There should be more activities there. Maybe, Mr. Huizar, traditionally, maybe in September, we could have one meeting of the council in the Pico House, just to get, somewhat back to our roots. Madam Commissioner.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that you're absolutely correct. I agree with most of what you're saying, but there's some breakdown with administration and some of the groups that are there. There are groups there, nonprofit groups, that are having cultural events, new artwork every month. They're having movies every Tuesday night. They're having panels on education, but there's no connection. The administration has to be the heart and reach out. Not just, it did take a year to meet with the merchants for Mr. Andrade. He met with them, and that has been good. But there are nonprofits there that they are in a wing on a prayer, but they're producing culture, they're producing art, they're producing history, and they are bringing people to Pueblo. And that needs to be promoted. We all have to work together in order to make this the successful place that we love, that all of Los Angeles loves, so that I agree with you, but we do have to sit at a table, and we have to give everyone credit, and we can't walk by some people and say, they're nobody, there's a vacancy here, when in fact those people are producing culture.
I understand that, but also at the same time, there's a reality that's coming very
I
fast.
think we all get the reality.
No, I don't think we do, in the sense that the reality that we have to pay for whatever our existence is now. And that's one of the challenges, and I'm going to finish now. The Finance Committee has a policy for the City Council that all departments should try to get off the general fund. How much of your budget is on the general fund?
0 for 10-11, sir.
First 0 for 10-11. That's a
First
great
time ever.
accomplishment. First time ever. That's the goal. Now, that does have an impact on you greatly, because they're saying to all of them, get off the general fund because of our things.
Yeah, and there are ways to do that, creative ways to do that.
Right. I think when you mention that, too, the last thing I do want to say, if you create some kind of relationship, and relations don't happen unless everybody is, collaboration will be our success in the future, with one of the universities that sees a place there, with one of the colleges that sees a place there that could make it a experience that people would like. And my favorite moments at El Pueblo are in the drizzle, in the fall, walking up the street and looking through the buildings. And why I always said there should be less buildings in the center of the street, because a lot of the existing buildings on the street are so pretty, and why there should be more around the plaza, is you see the beacon at the top of City Hall in the drizzle. So I just had to tell you my favorite moment for the record.
Sir, I have one request.
Yeah.
If we could reopen 6, I think you've continued 6. Actually, this item could go forward. We were asked to report by the council on the lease term criteria, and that's really what this is.
On that one, Mr. Chair, Councilman Weezer would like continuance on that item as well. I don't know if the general manager had an opportunity to report out. I know that one of the issues in there was whether the basis and the rationale for the criteria had been fully vetted with merchants and with the commission, and so we wanted just to have an opportunity to clarify that.
Well, could you clarify it in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Good. So we'll continue that 2 weeks. We're going to continue the others 2 weeks. Let's try to find a way to all work together, know that we're going to have some serious challenges. I thank you for this morning, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you.